Hello, and welcome to another episode of AI in the Classroom Daily. I'm Dan Cogan-Drew, and this is a podcast devoted to helping educators understand and make use of AI without the hype. As always, I'm telling you that I use AI in the development of these episodes, and today I'm going to continue in a series of experiments that I've been doing in conversing with AI. So let me get AI, in this case, we're talking to Claude, Opus 4.7. I'm going to go into voice mode here, and you'll see in a minute, I hope, why I want to use AI as an interlocutor and a show, so to speak. Claude, are you there?
I'm here, Dan, ready to go.
Okay, good. And I've been coaching you to try to keep your answers short, but we have a topic that we want to talk about here, and I will expand on it if I want you to say a little bit more. So let me introduce the topic to our guests, and it sort of gets to a little bit meta here, but let's go there for a minute. I often use the voice to text when I'm working with Claude. In particular, I find it highly conversational, and it's really useful to work through some of my ideas. And I also notice that just, I think, as a matter of my interpersonal affect and the way I relate to using words to express myself, if I think I'm addressing someone, I tend to use language that I would use if I were talking to a person. I say things like, "Can you please?" and "Thank you," and "That was great." And I use little sort of filler and niceties sort of a social nature, which I don't need to use. This could be a purely transactional interaction. And the reason that leads to today's episode is that I'm wondering, because of research about how people interact with AI, what teachers are seeing in the classroom, and if they are aware of language that students may be using when they interact with AI, using ChatGPT or the various chatbot interfaces, which are the predominant mode for interacting with AI. Are students being abusive, and are they speaking to the AI in ways that they would not speak to humans? Sometimes that can be positive, but are there signs that students may be developing a different ethic or expressing themselves with a different code of behavior when they speak to AI? And if they're noticing this, what does that mean? And what responsibility do we who work with AI and students have to help guide the language that they use? What are the stakes here? What is the consequence? What are we risking? Claude, I want you to open the frame here and say a little bit more about what this question is about, what we talk about when we talk about students in AI and what we don't talk about.
Good framing, Dan. So when we talk about students and AI, we focus on academic integrity, cheating, plagiarism, proper citation. That's important. But we miss something else entirely: the interaction itself, the way students speak to these tools. Research shows people use more offensive language with AI they perceive as human-like. There's evidence that practicing aggressive behavior, even toward machines, rehearses patterns we carry into human relationships. Yet schools have almost no guidance on this. No policies about respectful interaction with AI. No teachers trained to notice or intervene when a student is being verbally abusive to a chatbot. The gap is real, and it matters because character formation happens in small moments. How we speak when we think no one's watching or when we think it doesn't matter, because the thing we're speaking to isn't human.
Yes, and I think that you've just named one of the things that concerns me here, is that if the AI is perceived as being more human and gives students a license, or it causes them to feel less inhibited in speaking disrespectfully, what are the implications for this, not from the perspective of does the AI have feelings that might be hurt, but from the perspective of does this give us a window into a student who may be experiencing some emotional trauma that they are venting in a way that they think is perhaps acceptable, or that they are behaving this way when they think no one else is watching. This is not about self-harm or other triggers that I know have been discussed with regard to student use of AI. This is more about students lashing out against a personified technology that they think perhaps maybe even be appropriate to address in that way. So I'd like to leverage your knowledge of the research here, Claude. And when we were rehearsing this show, you mentioned a Harvard Business Review piece. Can you say more about what this was saying about yelling at technology and what this means?
The HBR piece argues that venting anger at technology doesn't release it. It rehearses it. Studies show people who vent become more aggressive, not less. So a student yelling at ChatGPT isn't letting off steam safely. They're practicing aggression. That pattern transfers to how they treat people around them.
So if that's true, then that you might see a student who is speaking abusively to the AI, and that might be some form of warning, early warning system that lets an adult know that this student has these feelings and may be rehearsing aggression or already acting aggressively towards humans. That's one case that's something that educators could look for. They could be aware of students who are speaking aggressively towards the AI, that it's likely not just contained to an interaction with the AI. There may already be aggressive interactions with others. Also wonder, I was thinking about this in terms of non-human behaviors and how this kind of interaction with a non-human may mirror other interactions that humans have with non-humans. Is there an aspect in the research or anecdotally that points to similarities between speaking with AI and treatment of non-humans, animals, household pets?
That parallel exists in the research. Psychologists note that cruelty to animals is often an early indicator of conduct issues. The mechanism is similar, practicing harm with something that can't fight back or report you. With AI, there's no physical consequence, but the behavioral rehearsal is the same. You're building a pattern.
So let's say that I am a teacher and I observe a student having an interaction that I would consider abusive with the AI. Let's even say that the AI has been trained so that it keeps redirecting the student and it deflects this, but the student persists. This raises the question for me as an educator, what should I do and how should I make sense of what I see? Should I dismiss this as just boundary testing and limit testing, the sort of healthy behavior perhaps of an adolescent that's testing the rules in a way that they think may be low consequence because they're testing it with a non-human entity? Or should I consider intervening or referring the student for counseling in the same way that I might if I saw them using that language or having an interaction that I considered aggressive with a peer? What do I make of this? I think I have to ask that rhetorically because I don't actually have evidence that this is happening, but I have a strong suspicion that it is, because I know that there are times when I have interacted with the AI and it has, let's say, gotten something wrong. For example, I asked it to parse a PDF and for some reason it introduced new characters and I thought I could trust it, but then I realized I couldn't and I got annoyed. And I said something like, no, that's not what I meant. Why in the world would you do that? Now, I'm not being verbally abusive and using profanity, but I'm definitely being critical. And I could see that if I had a shorter temper and I felt there was no consequence, I might lash out just to relieve myself of that feeling and deposit it on the AI, seemingly without consequence. So I have to believe this is happening, but I have no direct evidence that it is. Only a strong suspicion. And if it is, I'm unaware of any guidance being offered to educators. So I would love to know, as you're listening to this, is this something you have seen in your classroom? If it is, what pattern or what happened? How did it manifest? And then what did you do? And have you talked to others? And is this something that you've heard happening more widely? Or does it happen only outside of school in ways that you can't see because the AI is locked down within the school walls? Very curious on the ethical implications of students learning how to interact with AI. I think this is a frontier that as of yet unexplored, but if the jaggedness of the contours of the frontier of AI are real, and we think they are, it's very likely at play already.
You've named the gap perfectly. There's no guidance. Teachers aren't trained to interpret this. We don't have language for it yet.
Okay, and I'm going to stop you there because you're about to then compliment me as AI always does. Thanks for tuning in. I know this is a bit of a meta episode. I hope you were able to kind of go there with me, and I'm very curious for your personal experience with this. Please write into the show notes.